compliance doesn't sell. So if you're going to be compliant, you are not going to be able to sell. And I will say I have empathy for this objection because I felt it for a while too. And I remember for the first 6 to 10 months when I was under the investigation, I was very frustrated because I felt like I can't do anything. And today here I sit, still in business, selling, starting to grow again, and doing it compliantly. All right, welcome back to Stop Saying That. No, I'm kidding. Don't say that. We got a great episode today. This is episode number 5, and we are going to talk about our incredibly active, hardworking FTC. I will give a shout out to the people at the FTC, and this is not me being sarcastic at all. They were active as hell during the holidays. I mean, I was trying to take some time off, and they just kept bam, 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 and I have to tweet and summarize their press releases. So, Grand Canyon University, the largest Christian university, gets sued. Then they start talking and releasing a lot more information about junk fees. And then something caught my attention. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Jan 2nd, all right? Jan 2nd, 2 back-to-back press releases on settlements with companies on this term called robocalls. I actually kind of had to go Google it. And I was initially not going to do an episode about this because I was like, oh, Greg, the people that are going to be most listening to our podcast right now until we get out to the masses, they don't really robocall. And Greg had like a conniption. He had like an aneurysm in his brain. And he was like, what? He's like, it's all over the place. I'm seeing it everywhere. I was like, really? What? I guess I don't really understand what robocalls are. And then he goes, Ringless voicemails. And I'm like, oh, I know what that is. And we definitely have a lot of people doing ringless voicemails. All right, so they're active. The FTC does not like robocalls. They are obviously have had 2 cases on the same day settled. My guess is they're going to have more. Marketers are doing a lot of robocalls. So Greg, take it away, man. What is going on in the world of robocalls, and what should we do and not do?
So everybody's gotten that robocall that you're trying to get an extended warranty, right? In fact, there's commercials that make fun of it, right? And there's SNL skits and stuff like that. Like, oh, it's your time, you're getting a call. Hold on, let me take this call. And it's, for the extended warranty. Well, that's a traditional robocall, but there are robocalls that are out there. So the TCPA, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, it requires that before you contact a consumer, you have a proper opt-in. In fact, we talked about this earlier in another episode, but the FCC, not the FTC, the Federal Communication Commission in December, on the 13th of December, amended the opt-in language necessary to get consents to be able to contact people so you're not in violation of the TCPA. There was a company, and they just filed this lawsuit last week. Annika and I talked about it. We haven't talked about it here, but this lawsuit, what was it called? Something tree. It was like
Response tree was
just earlier this week. So in Response Tree, what they were doing is they were like, hey, we're going to Jones the system. We're going to go in and get consents for a whole bunch of people. They'll come into an offer. They'll give us consents for us and our affiliates to contact them. And then all they did is take all that data and they sold it to third parties. Well, the FCC, the FTC, they all saw this and they didn't like it. So last month in December of 2023, they amended that opt-in language under the TCPA, saying you can't just have it open-ended for affiliates anymore. You need to say, hey, by opting in and giving this information, you're also consenting to allow company and Smith Company, their affiliate, to contact you. So you have to actually now specifically state which affiliate is going to reach out on your behalf to contact the consumer in addition to your company. Well, that's the whole thing. If you have a proper disclosure, it should, in that opt-in, should say that you agree by opting in to allow us to contact you via email, telephone, text, via traditional and automated services. So the automated services portion of it is actually under the TCPA is called a robocall. That's where you take the information, you download it in a system that automatically goes through and starts dialing out to customers. Now, there's a lot of cases that are out here, and over the years, the courts have actually narrowed the scope of what a robocall is and whether it's a violation of the TCPA, where back in the day it was really broad. But there are states like California that have their own kind of TCPA, And they say if you're using automated systems, like we mentioned before, the voiceless or the ringless voicemail stuff, and you don't have proper consents, it's an automatic violation. Now, what does that mean? It means both the state of California and potentially the FTC, because they're having a committee this month to talk about expanding the TCPA even more to be like California. So it means the state of California, maybe eventually the FTC, because the FTC just brought this action against this response tree. So, I mean, they brought it in addition to the FCC. They brought an action against them for violating the law. It allows them to bring actions, but something you talked about before, Onik, that most people are looking at, the class action attorneys in California are salivating. What they'll do is they'll get a private person to go out there and try to sign up for all these offers to see if you're violating, if they get a robocall for it. And then they go into court and they file a lawsuit, a class action saying you violated this. And it allows them to not just go after damages for the one individual, but for any consumer in that state or across the nation in some cases as well. So robocalls can be a bad deal if you don't understand what they are. So key to this though, proper opt-ins. Make sure you have the proper opt-in language when you're getting customer data so that you can contact them. So there's nothing wrong with the ringless voicemail to somebody who has opted in to allow you to contact them, including having like certain automated services. If you don't have that, however, then it's an issue. And the second takeaway before you jump back in on it, have a freaking class action waiver in your terms and conditions. Make sure that anybody who utilizes your services, signs up for any free course or buys the course, that there's some sort of waiver that says by buying this course, you're opting out of a class, because the United States Supreme Court enforces those, and that protects you against a class action lawsuit.
Interesting. Yeah, so everybody, you've got, that's a really interesting point, is that was something that Greg worked with us when he first came on to help us as we changed our terms of services, and that was huge. Greg, just as a side note, completely random, I'm convinced that there is a ghost in your office and it comes and sits on that chair behind you, just letting you know. Because many a times your camera pivots and it focuses on that chair. So there's someone there, they're hanging out, they're watching. It's the ghost of the FTC that's listening to our episodes from that chair.
This is the client that didn't listen to me. That said that. Instead of don't say that, they said that. And now
they said that.
Saying, please, like Jacob Marley, please listen, give me another chance. So.
All right, interesting. So robocalls, you can do them. You need to change your disclosures, and you need to make sure your terms of services. So guys, contact your attorneys. Or go to guardianlaw.com and get Greg's team to do it for you. But make sure you're good there. And then don't be dumb about it, because I know the FCC, not the FTC, but the FCC has some rules about when and timing and all of that jazz as well. I will say this.
Every state too, right? New York, if you contact somebody outside of 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., it's I think it's $50,000 per violation. The governor just passed that in November. So Florida's the same way. You got to make sure you stay within the timeframes when you're supposed to contact people on the telephone. Yeah. Go outside of that without their consent, it's an automatic violation.
Man, all right. So guys, careful about that. I feel like that's going to be the next. And I don't blame it, because my phone is getting blown up with nonsense text messages and calls. Because of exactly that. I'll give you one example. So at one point I would have applied, this is years ago, this is 7 years ago, I would have applied for one of those loans that you can get, 1 year short-term loan for a company. I don't remember when, where, how, and that number and that information has been since sold to probably a couple of 100 different banks and things. Every day, not one day goes by for the last 3 years that I'm not getting called, harassed really, or text messaged, and there's no point in asking them to remove you from their database. They'll do it, but you're on 38 other databases of 38 other companies that are going to call you. So it is getting ridiculous. I hate the stuff now where companies will call you from their a local number on purpose. So I basically have stopped answering my phone altogether now, unless I know the person. It's made the whole experience pretty shitty, and I feel like I'm actually in support of cleaning that up. I really wish the government does do something.
Those are called phantom calls, right? Where it looks like it's a local call, but you get on there and it's hello, I better make sure my accent's politically.
It's someone
But
from
yeah, I'm
India,
from
not
your home
Maryland.
country. Yeah, it's
So
like, hello, this is Purva. Let
yeah.
me help you. And you're like,
um, why? The other one that's even more horrible is I hate these, and every single person listening has been through this. You answer the phone, and there's no one on the other side, and it's nothing. It's dead silence. It was a trap. They now mark you as an active
it's
like phone
horrible. That's a
answerer.
robocall. See, you know robocalls. That's a
Yeah,
robocall.
I don't like them. So
It's an automated
I'm all in
service to see
favor.
if you're alive, right? But
Yeah,
hey,
I'm all in
listen,
favor.
don't
Yeah.
make get you out of trouble again when you get that text from WhatsApp call from Singapore and it's that teenage person that's trying to get you to online. Don't answer that. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah,
That'll save
don't.
you some problems.
Okay. All right. So now robocalls is something that they've been on to. Let's talk. I want to pivot a little bit and talk about just 2024 in general. Actually, no. Let's go talk about Grand Canyon University. So, Grand Canyon University, because a lot of people think that either a company is too small. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about something completely different. This has been irking me. So you and I talked about this earlier, where there's this messaging. So marketers, online marketers, love to become experts at whatever the hell is currently the talk of the town. So marketers they went from sales experts to crypto experts to NFT experts to then AI experts. And now, due to my FTC case, Taylor Welch's FTC case, there's been a lot of conversation in our community. When I say our community, I'm talking about the little community of internet marketers, okay? And so, but there have been a lot of conversation about the FTC. And so now we have FTC experts popping up left and right. And I'm seeing some of the bullshit. Excuse my language, guys. I get pissed off about this because the advice that's being given is absolute rubbish shit. And people will believe you. So unless you are an expert, and here's how I define experts. You have to either be Greg, and you have been in the industry and seen God knows how many cases, 20 years, or I don't consider myself an expert, but at least I got the credential of having been in the trenches for 18 months, spent over $1 million in legal fees, and so my education was very expensive. So I'd say I've got a thing or two to say that maybe people should listen to. But even everything I say, guess what? It gets backed up by Greg. But I'm hearing this was my favorite. I heard someone with decent influence say, claims don't matter. They don't care. The FTC doesn't care about claims. Just as long as you are refunding your customers, you're good to go. And I mean, I just sat there staring at it like, what the fudge? So it's completely false. Then the next big thing has been, hey, you're too small. Doesn't matter if you're too small. Greg, we already covered that, so I'm not going to harp on that. But here's my favorite third one. Let's talk about this. Compliance doesn't sell. So if you're going to be compliant, you are not going to be able to sell. And I will say I have empathy for this objection because I felt it for a while too. And I remember for the first 6 to 10 months when I was under the investigation, I was very frustrated because I felt like I can't do anything. And today here I sit, still in business, selling, starting to grow again, and doing it compliantly. So, Greg, point blank out, do you have clients that make millions and millions and are scaling and killing it compliantly?
I wouldn't be in business for sure before I even met you. I mean, I've represented clients for years that are good marketers that have avoided regulatory action and they make really decent money. You know, they do really, really well for themselves. So in fact, they're my favorite clients. I always tell them that too. One, because they've taken risks. There have been times where the clients that I've represented in the past that have decided to make a concerted effort to do it correctly. What they've done is and we have conversations all the time. I just had one last month. It was like, you know, thank you for helping us on this because we don't have to go through all the bull crap that everybody else is going through with this. And they're happy because they have a good business that makes a lot of money and they don't have to worry about all the other noise that's around there when you have to deal with consumer issues because you've created the wrong impression through bad marketing. And so not only are they in longevity and they're profitable and in good standing, but they also feel like they're good corporate citizens because their clients are genuinely really happy with the service they have because the expectation of what they get is right. And they pride themselves in that. The good marketing companies that I represent, they who understand that, have they foregone other deals where they could have made additional money for it? Yeah, they did. There's been 3 or 4 times where I've advised the clients to stop working with another third-party vendor because I was concerned about their marketing practices. And a couple years down the road, those vendors get hit by the FTC. And guess what? My client's been unscathed. So here's what I hate. I know you get lit up on it as well. What I hate is, how do you know that compliance doesn't work? How do you know good marketing doesn't work? You've tried it. Here's where I find the biggest dilemma with this is you get people who half-heartedly commit to it. They'll be like, I'll try it, but I don't think it's going to work. Instead of just those clients that do commit to it, and they're like, I can't believe it's like you. Like, I can't believe that we're still converting without having to say, oh, our clients make $1 bazillion every month. Or if you come in here, you're going to have your first sell in 2 days or whatever the claim is. You're going to lose 50 pounds overnight. It's because people, for the most part, are done with the BS. They don't want to. There's so much negativity in our society here in America that they want to focus on things that are positive and they're legit. They want to trust, but they don't want to come into a system where it seems like you're selling them too much or it doesn't seem real. Because the people who are desperate enough to buy into that, they're the ones that are going to be the quickest to turn their back on you. And so does compliance work? Yeah, it works. Because what a good company that changes to a compliant model that gives truthful disclosures to their clients, they get a better client interface. They get a longer lasting client. They get a client that understands what they're buying, and there's less refunds and less chargebacks and just less cancellations and less problems. I mean, like, one client was spending so much time with customer support because of the expectation was so wrong. Once they shifted that over to a more clean model, it wasn't that there were crickets for customer support, but they were able to reduce that staff because they weren't spending all day dealing with consumer concerns. So, or responding to AG complaints or BBB complaints or lawsuits. You can focus on the business. I was on the phone with a client this morning and he's like, I just can't wait because of bad marketing practice in the past that we're starting to clean up. He's like, I can't wait to the point where I can just run my business again. And so I don't have to worry about the consumer regulatory problems and I can just be a business owner again. Because if you had come to me years ago and I would have known what I'm going through right now, I would have paid millions for you to step in and just correct this in the first place. I wish I had, because I would have loved millions, but he didn't. So now we're dealing with poo. But then he's just like, I want to just be a business owner again. And I say, we're going to get there. And they are. They're pivoting and making change and progress. It works.
So I have a whole rant about this, guys, because I obviously from firsthand have gone through it myself. And let me just give you the harsh truth if you want to be compliant. And this is it's from direct, personal, firsthand experience. It's the truth, and it's got bad and the good all mixed into one. When you first started trying to figure out how to sell, we all in the direct marketing community just have really shitty habits because we've seen and been trained by others doing it, right? And those who are doing it, I've never said and never insinuated that anyone who's doing the bad things is a bad person. I'm not even insinuating that they have bad intentions. I'm going to go ahead and say 95% of the industry are good people with good intentions. They believe in what they're selling, and I don't hold it against them. But we end up teaching bad things because we learn them, and that's what we're doing. So even then, so let's just go back to when you were learning those things, and you're learning to sell products and learning to do marketing online. It takes time. Your first funnel you build doesn't succeed, but you stay at it. The first email you send doesn't generate revenue, but you stay at it. The first ad you run doesn't work, but you stay at it. The first event you speak at, you do it all uncompliantly, but it doesn't work. It still doesn't work. There was something about how you did it that didn't work. And then you keep at it. You make those improvements. You nudge up, you nudge up, you nudge up, and one day it's working. Unfortunately, the problem is you stacked up bad habits, and what's working is working, but now it's built off of all these bad habits. So what happens to a business that's selling at this level and then they decide to go compliant and they have to decode all those bad habits, they expect that one day they're going to do the Indiana Jones switch, right? And the sales are going to stay here. And that's just not going to happen because it didn't happen like that for you in the beginning when you first started. You had to build up. Now, of course, you have a lot more skill. You have a lot more ability. You're not going to crash to the bottom, but you're going to see a hit. It's just the truth because you've been saying stuff to bring the wrong type of customers in. And so the hard truth of it is if you're going to go compliant, it's going to take you a few months of adjustment. It's going to take 2 steps back before you can leap forward 5. It just is. And you have to digest that. And that's an investment you have to make into your business. And if you're not willing to make it and you're not there, don't do it. That's up to you. That's a personal decision. My goal when I set out to work with Greg and to do this whole don't say that and to build NAOAC and to build our software wasn't to force everyone to go compliant. It was to make sure that if you get sued by the FTC or any other agency, you don't have the excuse to say, I didn't know that. There was a lot of things that I got hit for. I just didn't know. I just wanted to remove that from the industry. So, okay, number one, it takes time. There will be a setback. There will be a slowdown. You're going to go and you're going to see this. Prime example, there's a client, there's a customer, a friend. I'm not going to mention their name. They did it. They came to our first compliance summit, which was the beta run, and they went back and said, I want to go full on. I want to scale. I want to do it compliantly. And their sales took a really big dip. Now, they did it on their own. They refused to kind of get some additional support, which is fine. And they crashed and they went through this, oh my God, But they stood with it. Made adjustments. And last few months, you don't even know this, Greg, but last few months, they're having their best months ever. And they're doing it compliantly, as far as I'm told. I don't know. We haven't reviewed their stuff. But so that's thing number one. Takes time. Thing number 2 is, yes, you're going to sell less customers. So from where you're used to selling 10, you'll sell 5. But the 5 you bring will be epic customers who will spend 5 times as much with you over their life than that other customer was going to that you brought in through hype. So when you sell wrong, you bring 10 customers, but you bring 10 wrong customers. When you sell compliantly, you sell 5 customers, but they're amazing customers and they're going to spend way more with you. The last piece I want to explain here, the third piece, guys, this is a lesson I have learned being in business. And a lot of you may not want to hear this, but it is the truth. That which builds very fast will crumble just as fast. And that which takes a long time to build will last you a lifetime. So in our direct marketing business, unfortunately, we are spoiled. And a lot of us will go from 0 to multiple 7 figures in 1 year, but built off of bad habits and uncompliant selling. But you know what happens? One FedEx package from the FTC and all of that disappears on the spot. That which builds fast will crumble just as fast. And this goes way back in time. A lot of entrepreneurs talk about this. So put the effort in the beginning. Like what I'm doing now with the way that we are building. I'll use Greg as an example. Greg's been doing this for 20 years. So someone may look at him now and be like, oh my God, you're so knowledgeable about this. I wish it's 20 years, right? It's really difficult for his firm to crumble tomorrow. I mean, his clients are his clients. They've been with him for a long time. And so time to build a business, take that time up front. Those are the 3 things I'll tell you about compliant selling that I find a lot of people just aren't willing to commit to. And that's why compliant selling doesn't work. So all you marketer bros out there that are sending this shitty message out to the market, I heard recently from one guy who was like, the government is the government. They're going to come after you no matter what they want. And so if you're screwed, you're screwed. It doesn't matter. Go out and live your life and sell. Spoken like a true person who's not been investigated by the government, because has no clue as to what the hell that will do to you and your business and your family. I mean, there are people I know who have been divorced because of FTC lawsuits. There are people we've talked about who died, right? There's been suicides, and then there's also been heart attacks that were created from the stress. This is not stuff to dance around. So yes, I'm sorry. I'm very, very vividly on one side now, which is if you're going to build a business, build it slower, learn the right habits, and it'll last you a lifetime. So anyways, that's my rant on the topic. I know we are coming up to a very hard stop.
Don't be a self-proclaimed attorney. Don't play, like, I don't play a doctor at home. Like, I always say that all the time. Like, when my kids are sick, I don't play a doctor at home. I go to my friends who are doctors, or I take them in to have them looked at. Don't
Yep.
be a self-proclaimed attorney thinking, well, I just can figure this out. I had a call yesterday. They were like, hey, we're doing telephone sales, but we don't need to give any cancellations. We have hard and fast no refunds on this. And I was like, why do you? Well, somebody told us that the cooling period by the FTC doesn't apply to telephone sales. And I was like, okay, where are you located? California. All right. Took me 2 seconds to pull up the California statute that says if you can convert a telemarketing sale over the phone, you have to give the client a 3-day right of rescission. And if you don't do that, you're an automatic violation, and the consumer at any time can unwind that transaction. And they were like, we've had 3 other attorneys look at this. Why wouldn't they say anything? I don't know. This is what I do. This is what I've been doing for 20
Yeah.
years. Don't be a
Well,
self-proclaimed expert in the space.
well, and I do know the answer to that, Greg. The answer to that is a lot of attorneys don't know shit about this world, and they're just, and with all due respect, I'm sure, Greg, if I had a question about, I don't know, pick some random ass topic that you're
Your
not the expert
criminal
on.
investigation.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, if a friend of mine calls me and says I'm in jail because they caught me with, 7 pounds of cocaine, I'm not going to say call Greg Christiansen. You
Nope,
find a
you're
different
not.
attorney.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not.
You find a different attorney. All right. Listen, guys, don'tsaythat.com for all of our episodes. Don'tsaythat.com to track the launch of this book, which will be sometime in mid-February. We're excited. We have an academy coming out behind it as well to really continue to teach you guys all of this. And we have the Compliance Summit event. The tickets are already selling. Go to compliancesummit.com, March 20th to the 22nd here in Washington, D.C. We will take a bus tour to the FTC's building. I'm kidding. We will not do that. But we will be hanging out, having a great time. It's a great crowd. It's all big businesses doing great revenue, amazing networking. It's an epic time, and you will learn only not what not to do, but we will also tell you what to do and what you can do. So compliancesummit.com, don'tsaythat.com, and then soon enough we'll be launching our association, NAOAC. Greg, as always, thank you. I'll see you guys next week for the next episode. And as I always say, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, push it the heck back. Talk to you guys later. Bye.